They can't hear you. Hold on. They can't hear you. Sorry, I'm fix it. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it. Just keep talking. Keep talking. Dang it. Hey, everybody, they can hear me. What's up? Hey, you can't hear Tyler, but you can hear me. I'm Jared. I'm on the show. I'm not Jacob. I'm running the show this week instead of him, and I'm gonna fix his audio. And it's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to the Cosmic Force. They're never having me back on. This is not Legends Look Back, even though you can hear me. Hey, there you go. Now you can see me. I'm going to get that audio fixed for everybody. How are we doing tonight? Welcome to the show. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to go ahead and tell you now while I try to troubleshoot this that Naked Palpatine is going to make a guest appearance, so that's going to be fun.
Naked Pal.
There we go. They can hear you. And back over to Tyler. No, they can't hear you. Hold on. They still can't hear you. I got to add this to the audio group. Then it'll be fixed. Yeah, they'll cut these first, 2 minutes out of the regular...
Controlling your audio, you know what I mean?
There it is. And now it should be in every scene. Okay, go ahead, Tyler.
All right. Now, I'm being told that you guys can finally hear me, so... that's our show. So I'm glad you guys joined us. We had our guest host. We talked about all of the Foundational 5, and that was great. Tune in next week. Thanks for coming by. Anyways, this is the Cosmic Force episode 2. Thank you all for joining us. We are another podcast on the Utini Podcast Network. I am one of your hosts, Tyler Riganti, and we're just going to get right into the other host here. Emma, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing so good. Thank you for asking. I'm so excited to have Jared here. I'm so excited to be doing another episode. And yeah, I'm just really excited.
Caleb, how are you? Caleb, our third host of the night. How are you doing tonight, bud?
I'm glad to be here. It's good. Getting a little off to a bit of a start here. No, Jacob isn't kicked off the team. He's just has to do some work stuff. So we have the next best thing, and that's our friend Jared here. He's going to be helping us out, talking a lot about comics, because he's probably one of the people who knows most about comics, especially on the Legend side on the team. So it's glad to have him here.
Yes, our guest host who stole the spotlight right from the start and stole the surprise, Jared Mays. Jared, thank you for running the show tonight.
Gotta say, the description that Caleb just gave me is the best compliment I've gotten in weeks. The next best thing. I could not be more excited to be here, especially because, is it a coincidence that in the Foundational 5 episode, in which we are going to talk a little bit about Dark Empire, my very favorite piece of Star Wars media, is it a coincidence that I just so happened to be called up into the big leagues for tonight's show? Hey, I don't know.
Did we call you up, or did you call us and say, hey, I heard Naked Palps, which means I need to be on the show? Because I'm pretty sure that's how that went down.
I'm so excited.
All right. Well, as I said on the top of the show, we are a weekly podcast broadcasting live right here on youtube.com/Utini every Wednesday night. Normally at 8 o'clock. We had to push it back to 8:30 tonight, but it will normally be on at 8 o'clock every Wednesday. If you can't join us live, that's okay. All of our videos will be available right here on YouTube, and we will soon be available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We are a part of the Utini Podcast Network, which is home to the Utini family of shows created and produced by Utini staff members that fulfill Utini's overarching mission of guiding Star Wars fans through the Star Wars universe. For those who don't know, Utini is a community of positive fans that share our love for the greater Star Wars universe. If you love Star Wars and you have been looking for a community of people to share that love with in a positive way, well, Chewie, you're home. You can find the link to our Discord server in the show notes and in the chat. We're approaching almost 1,000 members in our Discord, so we've got a lot of really awesome people in there. If you like what you see and you want to say thanks, head over to our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Utini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Utini podcasting network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community involvement. So now that we've run through our nice little intro, we're going to go ahead, get into the show, and start off with our weekly pull list. And since Jacob's not here, that is going to get tossed over to Emma. Emma, what do we have available to us this week?
Yeah, so we've got one new comic out this week, Star Wars Bounty Hunters number 11, The Great Hunt of Malastare, which is an amazing title, by the way.
Looks like I didn't put it
Writer
in the OBS either, though. So you're just gonna talk about it, Emma.
Okay, I'm going to talk about it. It's I can actually describe the cover to you because it stood out to me how amazing it was. It's a cover with just Bosk on the center. He's kind of the star of this issue, and he's got like this knife type of thing with a really cool reflection. So put that image into your head. It's written by Ethan Sachs with art by Paolo Villanelli. A cover, that awesome cover I was just talking about, by Mattia De Luis. Colorist by Arif Prianto, and letters by Travis Lanham. And yeah, good stuff today. I don't know if anybody else has read it. I'm sure we'll talk about it maybe a little bit later. But it was a pretty good issue today.
I think it was probably the best issue of Bounty Hunters so far, but we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caleb
So-
already causing drama in the chat again, re-emphasizing his
Oh,
statement
no.
from last week that Bosk is better than Chewie.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. We're not going to do it tonight, but we are going to talk about this.
Sure.
Yes, this has to be
I'm
a
ready.
discussion. Absolutely. So now let's move on to one of my favorite segments of our show, What We're Loving. Tyler, why don't you kick us off with your favorite art of the week?
Sure. So I was doing a lot of reading this week, and one of the things that I was reading was the Star Wars mainline trade paperback number 1. And as you can see there on the screen, I loved this this page because this is a really emotional. Right before this, it was a really emotional moment for Luke. You know, he's dealing with the truth that he just heard, and what really caught me. Like I said last week, I always read my episodes, read the books twice, but the art on this page caught me even the first time because I love Leia's eyes. You know, it starts off with the compassion that Luke needs to hear to get him through the grief and everything that he's going through. But the blink, literally the blink of an eye, she's able to go right back to rebel leader, rebel commander, and is able to really tell Lando and Chewie what needs to be done and get right back into the mission. And I love this. The artists of this are Jesus Saiz and Arif Prianto. It's a great piece, and it really the detail on it really caught my eyes. Emma, what about you? I'll toss it right back to you.
Yeah, that was awesome art. I love that. My art this week is from Phasma issue number 1, with art by Marco Cicchetto. It shows Phasma escaping from Starkiller Base, and I just found the colors in this one panel to be absolutely striking with the fire and then the reflections off of her armor. And the colors here were done by Andre Smosa. I recently, just last week, reread this series, and was so surprised by how much I loved it a second time around. I loved it the first time too. Phasma is one of my favorite background characters, and I think that she has some of like the best background story from the EU between this comic and her book. And I don't know, this art just really struck me this week. Caleb, what about you?
What about me? Oh yes. This one is there's a bit of a story behind this one. This comes from
Love it.
Dark Empire. This one this is an old legend series, and I distinctly remember as a child, you know, I was probably, you know, under 10 years old. We had just moved to a new town and we found ourselves at the local library. And there in the kind of cool, edgy teen section, they had like sequin beads over the aisle. And I remember going down there and looking at all the comics they had. And one thing stood out. They had a copy of the entire, you know, series of Dark Empire. I remember pulling that out, and the artwork just immediately like struck out to me and how like rich this was. This is all by, I think, as I said, Cam Kennedy. Yeah, he's done a lot of work with AD 2000, a lot of Judge Dredd stuff. And it's weird because it's watercolored and you can look at the detail and the lines, and like the entire series is just in these washed out pastels, and entire scenes are like sickly green and pale blue and pink. So like this entire battle scene, as you see the Millennium Falcon swooping over, this is Coruscant as it's being ravaged by civil war. Just the details, the action, the soldiers, like it was one of those things I stared at this page for 10 minutes when I was a kid. And when I was rereading it, boy, was that just like a punch of nostalgia. Great series.
Oh man.
All right. And last but not least, Jared, let's see your pick.
Let me just like wipe the tears out of my eyes from that description. That was so beautiful. I love Dark Empire so much. Ken Kennedy's watercolor style is so good. Whew, I just need like a loop of Caleb's description of that panel to just listen to over and over and over for the rest of my life. It was
Little
so much
commentary
love
while
in
you
that,
read
Caleb.
it.
I loved that. Loved that. Oh my gosh. This, however, what's funny is you brought me on the show on an episode in which you're talking about one of my very favorite Star Wars comics. And the very first message from Jacob said, "By the way, Caleb took Dark Empire, so pick something else." So, what I have chosen is this panel from Dr. Aphra, number 7. The new Dr. Aphra, the one that just came out. It's a pretty recent issue. What I love about this particular image with the art by Minkyu Young, this is Lady Proxima coming up out of the water, and you can almost kind of see like her emerging from the water. It's very dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah.
You got a good, what do you call these things? Onomatopoeias? You got a good whoosh, whoosh, WSHHHH. So, whoosh. So it's really
Whoosh,
great. And
yes.
of course, you've got the backsides here of both Sana Staros and Dr. Aphra herself. Which, like, can we just appreciate the fact that we've got a comic coming out here in 2020 with a panel that has Dr. Aphra, Sana Staros, and Lady Proxima all on the same
It's
page?
amazing. Incredible. Love it. Love it.
So-
Caleb, do you have a community submission for this
Yes.
week?
You know, we asked about it last week and we got a good one. This one was from our one and only Chirps, aka at Bungo Wongo 3000 on Twitter. This art came from Darth Vader, the 2015 version, 2015 number 25 by Max Furima and Salvador Lacoca. This is you know, I think I remember reading this one. It just shows, you know, Darth Vader as he's just plowing through some Tusken Raiders, just fire explosions. Like it's like, you know, I definitely get why he sent us one in. We love it in Star Wars when they show us something kind of different in a new style, and this is just a really striking couple of images here on this page.
Yeah, this is actually, according to his tweet, this is actually the how the Tusken Raiders that was another one. There was 2 images side by side, one that showed how they revered him next to this one of him walking through. It's really great art.
I love the art style here with like the sort of like crinkled edges, or it's like he's almost having like a heat stroke or something. I like it.
Yeah, like when they do a fun layout like this, anytime a comic does this, like I was just recently reading some Moon Knight where they did some fun things like that. There's a really fun series of Batman Court of Owls where they just really mess up with the layout of how a page is done. So anytime they do something weird with the boxing and the lettering and how the page flows, that always stands out. So this is a really good pick here, Chirp. So, you know, hit us up again. You know, if you keep up the streak, you can be here next week. But at the Cosmic Force Show, send us your favorite panels that you've been reading this week. Hit us up on the Discord at the Cosmic Force Show sub little group there. We want to know what you've been reading and what struck your eye. So that's, you know, how you can interact with us. We really love it when you reach out. So
can I just say how much I love this segment? The fact that you guys have like the community chipping in with their favorite panels. It's so great. I love it.
We love it too. We love hearing from everybody.
I would say as long as they keep giving us submissions, we will keep featuring. What did we get, guys? What did we get? I think we had a couple of tweets and I think 5 or 6 different panels that were submitted. We even had panels in the Discord that they're like, "This isn't my submission, but I still wanted to share this."
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. It was great.
So yeah, no, reach out. We want to be here. We want to share the Star Wars comics experience with you. So that was the panels that we really enjoyed. But what about the stories? What have we been reading? Tyler, what have you been catching up with?
I've been catching up on a lot. I was kind of ashamed that Emma was the only one who had read just about everything last week. So I did my best to get caught up in everything. I am now caught up on the mainline, Star Wars mainline. I am now caught up on Bounty Hunters, and I didn't read the one that came out today, but I've been caught up on that. I've caught up on the High Republic and High Republic Adventures. I have the issues for Darth Vader, but I can't find issue number 6 in physical copy. So that's where I'm stuck on that. And then while I was at my local comic book store, I was actually able to pick up the little mini series from last year, Target Vader, which featured Vader and Valance and Dengar. That was interesting. But I was very productive this week, and I really wanted to make sure I'm not caught up in everything. So I'm still coming for you, Emma. But I did my best to keep up with you. What
How
are you
many
what are
comics
you
was
reading?
that?
A lot.
Yeah, that must have been a lot of them.
It was a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
So
There
when
were-
you say you were very productive, you mean you were very unproductive in other things.
I can say, because I know that none of my coworkers are listening, watching this right now, that I was there might have been some time during the workday that I needed to take a step away from the computer, and that 10 minutes might have turned into an hour and 10 minutes because I just got caught up in all this stuff.
Did you like hide comic books inside like other books at work in order to like fake it as if you were reading? Because I definitely did that in my 6th grade science class.
Well, luckily my office is a nice long trip right up the stairs from my bedroom, so I'm actually
Oh,
able
okay,
to
yeah,
work
yeah.
work
Pandemic
here.
life.
And but yeah, pandemic life makes it real easy for me to just move my mouse every once in a while to make it seem like I'm still active, and I just pick up the next book and just keep on reading it. So yeah, it was a busy week for me. So I'm hoping by next week that I can get caught up on everything else that I'm not caught up on, and that way I can share in the glory that is Emma, and who was caught up on everything. So Emma, if there's anything that's left, what did you read last week?
Well, last week I didn't really read anything. I was super busy with schoolwork, unless medical sociology counts, that textbook. I don't think that counts in here, but that's what I was reading. Yes, Major Snores. But today I did read the new issue of Bounty Hunters number 11, like we were talking about earlier, by Ethan Sachs, with art by Paolo Villanelli. And like I was talking about earlier as well, with that awesome cover featuring Bossk by Mattia De Luis. Really, really awesome stuff. I'm starting to enjoy the series a little bit more. I know that we had maybe some harsh words for it last week. But I think it's starting to find its stride with the upcoming Bounty Hunter War crossover series coming up. And I think it's starting to set up a really awesome story. And the premise of today's issue, which, like we said, it was called the Great Hunt of Malastare, I believe, was the title. And I love going back to planets that we've heard of before, like Malastare. So that was cool. And it's still picking up on stories that we've already seen from bounty hunters previously, but also building up to War of the Bounty Hunters. And I'm liking this connective tissue that we've got started here. So that was mine for this week. Caleb, how about you? What are you reading?
Like you, Emma, I kind of slowed down the last couple of weeks. I was blazing through
Yeah.
a couple of comics trying to get, slowly caught up. This time I just read a decent chunk of Dr. Aphra. And the only thing I can't, over the week, just read one single volume, and that was Dr. Aphra, the Catastrophe Con. That was from issues 20 to 26. And I'm going to put my statement out there. I think that's some of the best comics I've read in a long time. Just
Oh yeah.
the pacing, just how many characters they brought back and introduced, and the twists the story takes. It's all takes place just, not even, this shouldn't even be a spoiler, on a prison that is just a collection of starships that were slammed together and held together by tractor beams. And the prisoners just have, when they need to add more prisoners, they slam it into a derelict rebel ship and just congratulations, you're all prisoners now there. It's just this wild and wacky adventure in Jailbreak. Probably some of the best action I've seen in a long time. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah.
All right. So that leaves
Jared, are you reading anything?
Oh man, yeah. All right, I'm glad I get to talk about this. I went on a little road trip this past weekend, and for the first time ever, brought no physical Star Wars books on a road trip. and
That's not allowed.
I loaded my iPad to capacity. It was yelling at me. It was like, no, 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 we're full. We're full. No more comics. No more comics. Yeah, one more. Okay, one more. Yeah, one more. No, no more comics. I crammed in so many comics onto my iPad. I read all of, because we're covering, hey, shameless plug, tomorrow night here on youtube.com/Utini, probably.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
All right, cool. We're going to be doing the Dark Empire 2 roundtable. So you hear us talk about it tonight. You got to read all 6 issues of Dark Empire, and then all 6 issues of Dark Empire 2. By this time tomorrow night, you can do it, and then you can join us for Legends Look Back, and we're going to be doing our roundtable on that. So I was getting ready for the show, read all of Dark Empire 2. I caught up, just like Tyler did. I caught up on Bounty Hunters. I caught up on Dr. Aphra. I caught up on mainline Star Wars. I read like 40 issues of Star Wars Adventures. I mean, oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever read as many Star Wars comics in a 5-day period as I did this past weekend. It was just excellent. I highly recommend it.
It's
Highly recommend
it's
everybody
easy
just like
to get.
go on a road trip.
Yeah,
with
it's
lots
easy
of
to
Star
get
Wars comics.
lost. It's
Yeah.
like an hour goes by and it's like, oh wow, I just read like 30 comics. I like, you don't even realize it. It's not like a book where it's like, oh man, I've been really chugging through this. That's why I love comics.
Oh yeah.
Totally agree.
Well, that is what we have been reading. Now after this Utini merch ad, we're going to get into what you should be reading. So for those of you who may be tuning into the show to kind of figure out, hey, where should I get started? Or maybe if you've missed a couple of these these titles along the way, that's what we're going to talk about right on the other side of this Utini merch ad. So Jared, go ahead and hit the merch, and we'll be right back.
Go.
All right. Well, the moment that I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for is we're now going to talk about the foundational 5. And before, I actually have all 5 of them sitting right here. One of them is an actual comic book, and it's not trade paperback, but we'll get there. And before we get into this, I did want to take a moment and kind of let us all discuss what led us to think or to choose these titles, because Caleb, there was a selection process. There was an actual like voting and discussion and everything.
There's a little
You
video.
want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, essentially, we all kind of started by saying, okay, these are the comics we love and want to be in here, so we can't just put them all in the pile. Then we saw what had overlap and kind of, picked those ones and whatever. And from that overlap, then we sorted and counted them out. And that's how we got this foundational 5. Again, we aren't picking the best comics. We're not going out here and say these are the 10 out of 10 series. We are saying these are really good comics, that these are just solid stories, easy ways to get to really enjoy great comics, but they're also very accessible. As I said, before the ad break, that Dr. Aphra series, that part was some of the best I've read, but it's not something I can just say, oh, start with issue 20. You have to start all the way with issue 1, if not back in Darth Vader. So these are easy entry points. You can start here, get a really great stories and set yourself up for greater stories down the line.
Yeah, each of these books really has it's self-contained enough to be able to understand and have a nice complete story, but it has a very lasting effect on the entire EU. Now, I say lasting effect with a little asterisk there, because it's his comics. So sometimes there is some resets. 2015, Marvel is a little bit different than the current line, but these are comics and these are titles that are really going to have a real lasting effect, at least for a little bit. Emma, what about the character development and or in some of these the introductions that we get from some of these characters?
Yeah, absolutely. So these 5 comics were chosen hugely for their character development. We'll get into exactly specifically why later, but we have some in here with an extremely popular character introduced for the first time. And you know what? I'll just say it, it's Dr. Aphra, and we love Dr. Aphra. We're partial to her. And so, we're picking comics that really fit well with character development, and also with new characters and old characters too. Characters that we know and love, like our main trio with Han and Luke and Leia, but also new characters like I mentioned, Dr. Aphra, and that was really important too to have a good mix of characters.
Yeah, and another key element is the ability to be memorable. And there's one book in particular, and I'm going to toss it to Jared here, so he can discuss about this. And so I have a feeling that you all, if you've heard Jared before, you kind of know what he might be talking about here. But there's also some memorable events and or panels in probably every single one of these books.
Yeah, that's right. Memorable, noteworthy events is one of the criteria that we had for selecting our foundational 5 of comics. Now, I do want to give a shout out to Jacob, who's not here tonight. However, I gotta admit, I almost trimmed down to just a mustache tonight for our boy Spiced In. Didn't do it though. Don't think my wife would like it very much, but looks great on Jacob. So anyway, it was Jacob's idea to do a new foundational 5. So I want to give him some props there, and glad that this came to fruition. One of the most important things about it is you've got to have comics that are important with like these staples of the chronology. For example, in Star Wars the 2015 series, there is a battle between Luke and Darth Vader. They have the lightsaber battle before Empire Strikes Back, and so that's a very important moment. You meet Han Solo's wife, kind of, so some of the very important things that happen. And in particular, Dark Empire has such a noteworthy moment, which is, on the one hand, Palpatine's back, y'all, and he is not wearing enough clothes. You got another thing, like the return of that's the best smile I've ever seen out of Caleb. That's great. The return of Boba Fett. I think the panel of Boba Fett saying, it's like a full panel, or at least long ways down the strip of the page. What do you call those kinds of panels? Like half the page long hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
length?
I don't know.
Page
Hot dog
length, I
Boba
guess.
Fett.
If they're not called hot dog panels, they're now on this show called hot dog panels.
That's right.
Jock said we want a shirt called Hot Dog Boba Fett. It's just
I guess
like,
the ones that go the other way would be hamburgers.
yeah.
There you go.
Yes,
They
yes,
do now.
yes.
And so the return of Boba Fett, when he says to Han Solo on Nar Shaddaa, what does he say? The Sarlacc found me somewhat indigestible. That is like my all-time favorite moment in all of the EU, and there's no taking that away from me. So I think that's a good
great
example
impression.
of what makes something. Thank you. That's what makes something important for the Foundational 5 in terms of those noteworthy events, those big moments.
Absolutely. And in case you were wondering out there, we do actually have all this written up in a wonderful little article pinned by Jared himself. So that is live on the site right now. So, if you, for some reason, you have to put this podcast down and, can't pick it back up, go to the site. It has all of them listed out. So if you want to go ahead and get that spoiled chat, go over to the website right now, www.yatini.com.
And it's got those affiliate links there, which gives us a little bit of kickback to the site to help, keep the show running with audio and everything. All right. And of course, with that article, I want to give a huge shout out. It was a team effort. I wrote it, but it was Jacob who helped me with the outline, helped me get rid of some of my bad ideas, put in some good ideas. Jacob, of course, was working hand in hand with me on that. And then both Meg and Michael helped in the editing and then getting it up on the site. So, I mean, a lot of us, and then you all voted. With the whole comics team participated in choosing these. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been something on the site that was such a team effort as this article.
Yeah, it was great
right,
work as always, Jared, and I'm happy to have a foundational 5 for comics now. It's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's go ahead and get into these books. And I'm going to take the first one, and the first one is going to be the Star Wars 2015. Basically, the first trade paperback. I have this one, like I said. This is actually just the actual comic book, but this one was written by Jason Aaron, Karen Gilliland, and Greg Pak. The pencils are from the likes of John Cassidy, Stuart Immonen, Jorge Molina, Angel Unzueta, Salvador Larroca, and Phil Noto. It ran from January 15th to November 2019, and that's for 75 issues. And the reason that I wanted to take this is this was the reason I got into comics back in 2015. I have a ton. If you see behind me, these are all my Legends books. I actually just bought. I shared a picture earlier today, and Jared was all over it. I just bought 5 more Legends novels. I almost have a complete set, but I've always had the novels, and I never got into comics. I was like, nope, my fandom, it's enough. It's right here. That's only the novels. Until Marvel until Disney bought Star Wars, until Disney bought Marvel, until Disney said we're going to re-release Star Wars comics, and I was like, well, damn, I guess I can't hold off any longer. And it's just it really has a really special place to me. It's not only that, but there are great stories. There's a great arc that features Obi-Wan, like we talked about earlier. There's a fight between Luke and Darth Vader. It was really, for it to be back in Marvel, where it used to be before, Dark Horse had it for geez, Jared, what, almost 20
All right,
years?
We can do this math. Here we go. What year was it? 1991 to 2014. So what is that?
I was told there'd be no math.
23
23 years.
23 years.
23
yes.
years.
23.
So for it to come back
23
home,
wonderful years. Let's put it that way.
for it to come back home after 23 years, for it to be this good, not that I wasn't expecting to be good. It's really something special, and so that's why I voted for this to be part of the Foundation of Five, and I'm really happy that it's part of it. Have all of you? What are your thoughts on this book?
Yeah,
Have you guys read this one?
It's definitely like should be the cornerstone of the Foundational Five because it takes place right after episode 4. Like you could have just watched that one movie and still be able to read this comic and get everything you need out of it. There's nothing like, you don't have to have read a ton of, all the 24 years of comic history. No, we don't need this. It's kind of like what DC likes to do, and it's a reboot of the comic universe, a reboot of their storytelling, so you can just get in there and just really enjoy the stories. And the first arc starts off really strong. It starts off really solid. There's just a lot of fun action, a lot of these comics do seem to really love having Han and Leia hate each other, and it is always good to have that snippiness and that action back and forth.
That Han.
Yeah,
Leia
I
relationship
totally
is
echo
great.
that. Yeah, great relationships all around, not only with Han and Leia, but also with the pseudo relationship with Sana and Han that was introduced in this series. And yeah, lots of good solid arcs. I'd say my favorite arc in this one stands out to me mostly because of the cover. I don't know if this is
And
the
I knew
trade
you were gonna
paperback
mention this.
cover. Yes, I know it's my favorite. I'm notorious for loving this. I think it's Mutiny at Mon Cala or the one after that.
Yes.
That has Leia. It's in our intro, that panel with her kind of standing,
Leia's
nice and proud and,
her
and like
hero
a leader.
pose.
Her hero pose. That's right. And she's got all the Mon Cala ships going behind her, and she looks like a real leader. And I love that image, and that whole arc is really great as well. Lots of great callbacks to the Clone Wars, those episodes on Mon Cala. And I just loved seeing how they got a lot of their flagships from Mon Cala and how they made the deal with the Mon Calans. There's so many great callbacks in this series. We've got a trip to Crate, a trip to Jeddah. Just so many great, not really Easter eggs because they're not super hidden, but lots of great callbacks.
Yeah. One of my favorite arcs is the one where Han and Leia get stranded on like a farm, and they're chased by, what's that squadron called? Where they're like
Scar
yeah.
Squadron.
Scar Squadron. Yeah.
Scar Squadron.
Oh
yeah.
man, that's because it's mostly just Han and Leia falling in love with each other. How do they get from where they are in A New Hope to where they are in Empire? This comic really paves that, it bridges that gap between those two films.
Yeah, that run, I remember just being so kind of bizarre in its like setting, taking place on a farm. I clearly remember a panel with Han shirtless, raking a field or something like that so that he could have a beer. That's just something that like stands out in my memory.
Didn't Harrison Ford do that in like a movie where he like worked out with a bunch with the Amish? It's a
Probably.
deep dive,
I'm
but
gonna
yeah, I
Google
think
that for sure. Now that you've said it.
Yeah, I mean
All right, well,
that
before
sounds right.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say before we'll do that after the show, maybe in the aftermath. But let's get back to the actual the Star Wars comics here.
Yeah.
Jared, what do you say about our second entry in this list?
Great. Yeah. The second one is one I've already been talking about tonight. Kind of. I was talking about the 2020 Dr. Aphra line. Now we are, of course, talking about the second book in our foundational 5 of comics. Drum roll. I needed to, like, I'm the producer. I should have had, like, a thing to click that would do that. Anyway, it is the 2016 run of Dr. Aphra. This is written by Kieran Gillen and Simon Spurrier. Simon Spurrier took over, what do you think, halfway through? Maybe even earlier
Somewhere
than that.
around that.
I think it was earlier than that.
Yeah, maybe so. Cy Spurrier actually won a GLAAD Award in 2020 for the Outstanding Comic Book, which was exciting. It's nice to see Star Wars titles winning some awards from things that are not explicitly about Star Wars. This had art, the pencils from the likes of Kev Walker, Andrea. I should have practiced these names: Andrea Brocardo and Emilio Liso. Hey, whoever y'all are, you did a great job. I'm sorry I messed up your names. And this, of course, ran for 40 issues from December 2016 to December 2019. This is just such a classic example of the ridiculousness of Star Wars, isn't it? That
oh yeah,
this
Yeah.
series about the female space Doctor, what do we call her? Like the Indiana Jones of Star Wars.
Yes.
like,
Right.
She's not particularly likable. She's not good. You guys are going to talk about. You're going to do a roundtable on this soon, right?
Yes.
Next week, yeah.
That might
Next
be our
episode.
next. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Jacob's not here, so we're like, yeah, probably. What's fun, of course, is this is just the series about the space Indiana Jones. She's got 2 separate ongoing comic series with the same title, just Dr. Aphra.
Mhm.
But she originated in the Darth Vader comic. But now she
Yes.
has an audio drama recapping her story from the Darth Vader comic, a little bit from the mainline Star Wars. But now there's a script book about the audio drama, adapting her
comic.
appearance from Darth Vader. But then she also has
I mean,
2
if that's
separate
not
ongoing
meta.
series.
So are they eventually
Right.
going to do a stage play based off the
That seems like the
Script.
logical next step. Yes.
Oh man, a stage play. I would buy tickets for that for sure.
Same,
I'd wear a
same.
mask, but I'd go. So great. This series has some amazing beats in it. What I love the most about it is I think you guys mentioned this last week. The part where she's on the run from 000 and he's got he's like running. I don't think you talked about this. He's running like a reality show and the whole planet is watching. Or maybe
I
it's
remember
the
that,
arc where
yeah.
there's a bomb strapped to them. They're chained together, and then he's got a bomb.
There's
inside
a-
I'm
there's
him.
bomb,
about
like,
to read
inside their
this. I'm
body.
about to read
Yeah.
this
So
one.
Good. It's one of those I got from my local library on a random Saturday afternoon. I was like, yeah, I'm a Legends guy, but I like to keep up, and so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna read this canon comic, whatever. Oh, this is good. That's how I feel about this. Even
Like-
Legends people like it. That's an endorsement if I don't know what is.
Like the whole thing about Dr. Aphra is she's obviously the evil version of our main cast. She's like the evil, Han Solo, Harrison Ford sort of type, but she also has her evil, like, droid companions who are just complete dark reflections of C-3PO and R2-D2. And like the horrible things they do is always just so entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
And the humor is it's spot on. Like the dry sarcasm that comes from her and the droids, it's great. That's
Like
my favorite part.
exactly. Like anyone who fondly remembers HK-47 from the KOTOR
Yes.
series,
Right.
Like-
Theory. Who is HK-47?
HK-47 is and 000 have the same DNA. They are like, he is a grand descendant of HK-47. They are the same sort of lineage and family there. So if you have fond memories of, having HK-47 subtly encourage you to murder people, you are going to love this series.
And what I'll say about it, of course, I'm on the wrong slide here. I'll find it sooner or later. Where's Jacob? Jacob, we need you. Here we go. What I'll say about it is we just had a great comment from Be Nasty in the chat that Black Kristan is an evil Chewie. So there's another analog there, which is great. Of course, this runs in between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. So this one takes place concurrently with mainline Star Wars and Kieran Gillen's run. No, this after that, right? I don't think it ties in quite as
It's the same
way.
time, like, between the movies, but it started a couple years after, like a year or so after the original, like Star Wars new series started.
It's this new one, and this is where it gets so confusing. The new series is tying into the Bounty Hunters and Star Wars and Vader in this new crossover event. But I would say, for my money, in canon media, this is absolutely some of the top tier content that they've made in the last 5 years.
Absolutely. And I would say, like, her popularity as a character in Star Wars is huge, considering just her only being in comics and in audio drama that adapts a comic, like we were saying before. Her popularity is immense. I mean, I think that the reason for bringing the audio drama in and adapting the comic is to bring her to people that don't read the comics, because she is such a great character, and a lot of people are missing out on seeing her awesome character development and her great character traits by not reading the comics. And the other thing is too, I mean, if this is any measure of popularity, and trust me, I believe it is, Dr. Aphra, 000, and BT1 have Black Series figures. And I think that that is the most amazing thing in the world. By the way, if anybody has a line on those Black Series figures for not a crazy astronomical price, hit me up. I'm looking for them.
Oh, man. The collectors in the Utini family. It's a whole subculture,
yes.
isn't it?
We are all enablers.
Sure. Yes, we are enablers, but I think that, their popularity is growing, and I think the conversation happens a lot in our Discord and on Living Force and all sorts of places. Would we want Dr. Aphra in live action or in an animated show? And the answer is always absolutely. And it's fun to fan cast her. I think that they talked about that on the last Living Force episode. Who would they want to fan cast as Dr. Aphra? I think that'd be so much fun to see her in something like the Book of Boba Fett. That would be cool. She fits that vibe. She's interacted with Boba Fett before. And I think that would be very interesting to see. And honestly, like Emily Wu Zeller, who narrated, who played Aphra in the audio drama, would be perfect. She'd fit the look. And I would love to see her not only in comics, but somewhere else, because I want other people to enjoy her as much as we enjoy her.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think if there's any takeaway from this, is Dr. Aphra is probably the apex of what the current Star Wars is capable of, and both in terms of storytelling, representation, just overall skill of like storytelling. This, you can hardly go wrong with that. Right. But if you want somebody a little bit more tied closely to the movies, we have another recommendation for you, and that goes continuing with our trend of the bad boys here. Emma, could you tell us a little bit about The Rise of Kylo Ren?
Yes, I sure can. The Rise of Kylo Ren, I would say it's the comic series that kind of broke the Star Wars internet. Everybody was really excited for it. I know we all were. Even if you didn't read Star Wars comics at the time, you read The Rise of Kylo Ren, likely. And if you haven't, you should. It's amazing. It's written by Charles Soule, who we all know and love, especially if you read Star Wars books. Light of the Jedi, written by Charles Soule as well. Very prolific author in the Star Wars universe. And the art in this.
Sorry, he's just also done a ton of Darth Vader.
Yes, a ton of Darth Vader, and he's doing the current run of Star Wars, the 2020 series. Am I correct in that? I think he is. But yeah, tons of good stuff. Really great writer. Art by Will Sliney in this. It ran from December 2019 to March of 2020, and it was just 4 issues, so pretty recent comic. It follows Ben Solo after the events of the destruction of Luke's temple as he finds his new place in the Force and in the galaxy. We see a lot of cool events in this series. I think the thing that comes to mind is, before we get into the actual Kylo Ren stuff, because this is his comic, I just want to mention there's 2 High Republic Easter eggs in this, which I mean, Charles Soule and all the other writers of the High Republic, they were teasing this like way before we even knew it. We go to Elfrona, which is a planet in Light of the Jedi.
Oh
We
yeah.
go there to a Jedi temple in this series, which is really cool to see. Um, what was the second one?
The
I just lost
Holocron
my
by
thought.
Avar Chris.
Yes, that's right. That's right. There's a holocron with Avar Chris in it. I knew there was two. I lost my train of thought. And so yeah, they were teasing the High Republic before we even knew it, and that made it even better. But talking about Kylo Ren, because this is his series, we get to see him go through kind of I believe it's been a little bit since I've read this, but I believe it picks up like straight away after the temple starts burning, and we can kind of see his emotions through that. I know that that scene is kind of under a lot of questions a lot of times, like whose version of the story is the accurate one. Did Kylo mean to do this? We kind of get some more answers regarding that. And then we also get to see him just turn more and more to the dark side. um, Actually, I just had an epiphany. I remember the other High Republic tie-in. I don't think the holocron was in this series. I'm pretty sure
No,
the other one I was thinking, was it? The other one I was
I
thinking
just
of was
read it like last month. Now you're questioning it, so I'm like 80% sure it was in there.
well, the second one I'm just remembering is the Amaxine station from Into the Dark is where Snoke was in this
Ah.
series. Um, oh, I'll have to check on this and tell you guys in the Discord if the holocron is in there or not, because I thought there was just two, but maybe there was three. I'll
No,
I'll
it is.
update everybody in
Yeah, it
in the
is. I
Discord.
read it. I
Okay.
reread all of that series recently because I was looking for High Republic Easter eggs. I was like, I gotta give me some more High Republic. So I went back and read this thing and was like, oh, it was right there. Oh, well, it was right there. It was so
Cool. I must have
rewarding.
missed that.
So
That's
rewarding. Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so there are three that we count High Republic Easter eggs. I know it's been a little bit since I've read this. Good call, everybody. So my favorite part of this series, and I'm interested to hear everybody else's favorite part in a second, but my favorite part is at the very end when we see Kylo Ren bleeding his lightsaber crystal and seeing him construct his lightsaber. And the reason I like it is because I got a lot of Han Solo vibes here. And I know that's kind of weird to say because he's bleeding his lightsaber crystal, but the reason I got the Han Solo vibes was because you could tell that he's been tinkering with his lightsaber, and you can tell he's been trying to figure out how to make his unstable crystal kind of work. I don't know, just his facial expressions and everything like that. It made me feel very sad for Kylo because you can see the light in him. You can see it even when he's doing like the darkest thing imaginable, which is bleeding the crystal. And I don't know, that scene, it made me very emotional on it. And I didn't expect that because I don't really feel a ton of like strong emotions when I'm reading comic books usually, but it kind of made me a little teary-eyed. I felt bad for Kylo and kind of was starting to think about the life he might have had. And then I had to stop thinking about it because it was so sad.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite part of the series. And I'm wondering, Jared, do you have a favorite part of this series?
Oh, here you are. I'm trying to fix Tyler's video, and here you are tossing it over to me.
Oh shoot.
Well,
Well, why don't
let's
we ask
see.
Caleb
It's
what,
okay.
what
I
it
got
is?
it. I got it.
Okay,
I like
okay.
getting a peek into Luke's Jedi Academy in canon because you haven't seen
Oh,
that.
yes, yes.
And I'm a sucker for Luke's Jedi Academy in Legends. We just did
Right.
the Jedi Academy trilogy roundtable, 2-part roundtable on Legends Look Back, which you can access for free and listen to or watch right here on YouTube. Just click around, you'll find it. We got a whole Legends Look Back section, and that was really thrilling. It's only 4 issues, but it was cool to get to know some of those students, get a peek into Luke's training methods. This is a few panels of them tossing rocks around with each other and having some sparring, matches with lightsabers. And yeah, I'll say it's the Luke's Jedi Academy.
Awesome. Caleb, how
Yeah.
about you? What's your favorite part?
There's a lot of standout points. Even before the end of Mandalorian season 2, spoiler warning, we get to see Luke Skywalker as a Jedi just completely be in his element, and that's always great to see. Luke as the apex of the Jedi Order, and that was great there. And it was nice to see Kylo Ren sorry, well, at that point he's still Ben Solo, being just kind of like a sad boy, like, I really don't want to be a bad guy, I really don't want to kill anyone here, but I'm a bad guy now, so I'm going to hang out with these drug dealers I once met, sort of thing. So you see him like, Kylo Ren has always impressed me as someone who's trying very hard to appear villainous. Like even in episode 7, like I could, when he's like, pulling out his lightsaber and chopping up banks of monitors and computers, like the first time I saw him, like he's trying too hard and he's trying to impress the stormtroopers around him with how rage filled he is. So it always seems like he's trying to put on this front of a bad boy persona, and you definitely see that in the first several issues of him being really like, as weird as it sounds, badly trying to be bad.
It's probably one of the truest connections to the characters in the movies, because that you could argue throughout the movies that he is that he is struggling to be bad, that he's broken bad, but not really. And you really see that he gives there are times where, I won't go into spoilers, but there are times in there where he could break bad, and he fights it, and he really fights it. He wants people to think that he's bad, but he doesn't really want to fully commit, and it really, that emotion really carries over from how Adam Driver depicts him in the movies.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
and in the comments we have Mike A and Eric also mentioning the best part is we see Snoke in his derby outfit with his nice little flat hat.
I was
Oh,
just
yeah,
about
yeah, we
to
can't.
say that. We can't ignore that hat. That,
Gardner
oh my
Snoke.
gosh. Absolute
Yes.
meme that Snoke is in this series. It's worth reading just for the hat, honestly.
Gardner Boy Snoke, as Erica said in the chat, is trying. I don't think he'll ever do it, but he's trying to dethrone Naked Palps as the best meme in the Utini Slack chat. I don't think he's ever going to get there, but he's a very constant presence whenever we're trying to have a laugh.
So good.
So good. All right, and speaking of villains and dark, brooding, emotional people, Tyler, let's talk about Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, one of my favorites.
So yeah, you really can't have a foundational 5 without some Darth Vader, without Darth Vader appearing at least once. And
Right.
really, I mean, is there anything better than Charles Soule writing Darth Vader? I mean, not to put anybody else who's tried to shame, but this is an amazing story. Written by Charles Soule, pencils are by Giuseppe Camuncoli. It started running in June 2017 and ran through December 2018 for 25 issues. And it really, you get to see that transition. You get to see the transition from Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader. He doesn't, Palpatine is always the enabler, is always, it's fascinating how much he has Vader wrapped around his finger, and he's always goading him. He's always, well, you don't have a lightsaber. I mean, you can't be my apprentice without a lightsaber. And oh, by the way, I've also got these Inquisitors. It's actually is this the first time that we see the Grand Inquisitor, or is he in Rebels first?
Oh,
This is
that's
the
a good
first
question.
timeline that we get in the
Right.
timeline thing, we get to see the Inquisitors. I think he might have shown up in Rebels first. Let me.
You put
I
on the hat.
believe Rebels was first, not by a time. Yes, look at that hat.
I like when
Caleb.
you were talking about, like, wait, I have that hat somewhere.
For our audio listeners, Caleb has donned a very Snoke-esque looking hat from the Rise of Kylo Ren comics, and it's great. But yeah, if I remember correctly, I think the Grand Inquisitor in Rebels came before just slightly.
2015
I think
was
so.
Rebels.
I think you're
yeah.
right. So, but the you get reintroduced to the Inquisitor of Rebels fame. You get introduced to the rest of the Inquisitors who make appearances later on in Rebels, who make appearances in Jedi Fallen Order. And you really see this, not only this network that Palpatine creates in order to hunt down the Jedi, but I really think that it was all meant for Vader, especially because it was put into this book. I really think it was all meant to ensure that not only was Anakin beaten down by Palpatine, but that he wasn't getting up either. And he just controls him every step of the way. And Caleb, I think you had, this was your art of the week last week, right? Was one of the books in the middle of this series.
You
where,
want Cav early on when he, when you mentioned,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, Palpatine's like, oh, you don't have a lightsaber. So he's got to find, he's like, well, just give me a lightsaber. He's like, no, no, no. You have to earn a lightsaber. So he has to find a Jedi that's just out in the middle. Like, I have to find a Jedi, kill him while not having a lightsaber, and then corrupt that lightsaber to make him my own. So
yeah, because
like,
he couldn't just grab one. I mean, there were
Yeah.
thousands of them, literally thousands of them laying around the Jedi Temple. But it was like, no, you can't just pick one up and claim it as yours. You need to earn this.
Oh yeah, and Infala, the Jedi he ends up having the duel in order to get that from, shirtless, by the way, is like the first example we get of the, what do you call them, Jedi wayfinders, way seekers, way searchers,
Wayfinders.
I always get these mixed up.
Yeah.
there's
The
like a
thing-
specific
think-
like the term starting with a B that they put him on, like some sort of certain exile he was out on.
Oh yeah, he's got the Barash vow. That's what it is. There it is. Thank you,
Yes.
Caleb. He's a Jedi who's taken the Barash vow, which now we're exploring in the High Republic. And we didn't know that at the time, that they would eventually come back to that and flesh it out even more. But so cool. I absolutely love him. He's one of the best canon characters for my money.
Yes, and so we've gone through four. We've gone through four of our five, and while all of these are canon, we couldn't have all five of them be canon. We had to have legends be represented, and not only do we have to have legends represented, we had to have probably the most infamous Legends comic book. I will go out on a limb and say, at least in my opinion, it's the most infamous Legends book. And Caleb, why don't you talk a little bit about Dark Empire?
Why not? As I've already stated, like Dark Empire was like the first Star Wars comic I read. And I had no idea what I was getting into, but my lord, was it cool. I said it had these weird, awesome, watercolor splash pages of huge action, wild color palettes. It also reintroduced Boba Fett. It had Darth Vader coming back, but not quite. It was actually Luke Skywalker in his armor. So you gotta see these like really chunky character designs and like wild things. This was all done by Tom Vetch, who is the writer, and pencils by Cam Kennedy, who I mentioned earlier. And just it follows this wild story of it's not called Dark Empire for no reason. It follows Luke's like almost corruption to the dark side as he decides to try to follow Palpatine one more time, as he Palpatine's back somehow, he's returned, and he just like in the
first
wild
time.
the first time, yes, the first time in canon that's now no longer canon. It's a good story. Like, it's like when I read through it, I'm like, wow, that was really fast. Like, they went through a lot of story and a lot of beats really quickly. But then I thought, this is probably more like, a movie sort of thing. Like, you could almost turn that entire thing into a screenplay and it'd feel like a Star Wars movie, the way the action flows and the way the action moves. So no, and it's really important. There's a lot of very important things, and in just 6 issues, so it's a quick read. There's a sequel, Dark Empire 2, and then there's a sequel to the sequel, Empire's End. Just had to mess up with the whole naming trilogy there. Star Wars, brief aside, Star Wars had a lot of weird things. Remember Dark Forces, and then they did Dark Forces 2 Jedi Order, and then it did Jedi Order 2 Outcast, and then Jedi Outcast 2 Anyway,
mentioning the fact that there's an expansion onto Dark Forces 2.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
Mysteries of the Sith. I
Yes.
actually have got to show off my hardcover of the Dark Empire trilogy. This sucker
Beautiful.
has become
Ooh.
quite rare. My wife, when we were dating, bought this for me, and when I was doing my study abroad in college, she mailed it across the world to Zambia. And
That's
Wow.
as it
awesome.
came in the mail,
That's
I was-
love right there.
I was like, yep. I bought a ring as soon as I got back. As soon as I got back, seriously. And I was like, as soon as it came in the mail, I was like, all right, y'all, do the Africa thing. I'm be in the room for a weekend reading Dark Empire.
There you
And
go.
you know, you
there
mentioned
you
it being
go.
cinematic. That's actually one of the things that Tom Beach was going for. There's a I have to find this thread. There was an interview where he and Timothy Zahn went at it, and they talked about what they hated about each other's work. And so,
Because that one and Heir to the Empire came
Right,
out
yeah.
pretty much the same time,
yeah,
right?
they were being
And it
written.
Yeah,
came
right,
out
both in
and they had
1991.
the same like time frame, like 6
Yes.
years after the movies.
Right, and
And I remember like they didn't talk to each other while they were writing these books, and that was right. Is it, Jared? I think I think we've said that before.
what was that?
I don't. Even though there's so much similarity between those two books, they didn't collaborate, right?
No. In fact, they not only didn't collaborate, they it was like animosity. First of all, you're dealing with an age, 1990 is this being written, that how are you going to collaborate? A long distance phone call?
Right.
Those suckers are expensive. You got 35 cents
Call
a minute.
collect.
That's right. And these guys, like, they did not have the same vision for what they wanted to accomplish. They're being contracted by different publishers. Tom Veitch originally was signed on to write this for Marvel, and then Marvel lost the license. And so then, he's in direct competition with Timothy Zahn. They actually, I'll find this post, I'll put it in the Discord channel, kind of go at it about the stuff they hated about each other's work. So it's Dark Empire versus Heir to the Empire. And one of the things that Tom Veitch says he didn't like about Heir to the Empire, he says it wasn't very cinematic. Just goes to show, like, he really is trying to make this feel like a Star Wars movie. And for me,
Yeah.
it does.
And after rereading Heir to the Empire, that whole trilogy, there is an entire like point where where our main characters spend 3 weeks hiking through woods. So Veitch had a point.
Yeah, and I am putting in the chat, if I can get it to populate as a link, I'm trying here. We did a whole episode of Legends Look Back all about Dark Empire about a year ago. So Dark Empire, Legends Look Back episode 12 is our Dark Empire roundtable if you want more on that.
And I think the most ironic part about their little throwdown, for lack of a better term, is here we are 30 years later. Thrawn is alive and well. We have Palpatine coming back.
That's right.
Wasn't as naked as he was in Dark Empire, but they're, even though it's not canon, their stories, their characters, their themes, all have been represented, and I think that just is a testament to the importance of what they did for the expanded universe. I mean, they're really the creators of. I mean, I could very easily make an argument, and we've had this discussion before, both in the Discord and in the Slack. Without these two writers, I don't know if the expanded universe is what it is today.
No, absolutely. I mean, Heir to this Dark Empire here is the first canonical reference like that where he created holocrons, and that's such a massive part of the Star Wars canon, and he just kind of invented it as a in this series, so we get to see the first copy of this. So there's a lot of like really deep dive sort of things you can pick through there.
His world building is excellent, as is Zahn's. They were so clearly like, this is my shot to write Star Wars. I'm gonna swing for it, and he does not pull any punches. It's cool. It's cool, is what it is. You talk about discovering it in the teen section. It's edgy. It's edgy. It does every single line hold up 30 years later? This is the 30th anniversary. Where's that 30th anniversary hardcover collectible edition? Come on, give me that leather thing. But I'm saying that it's been 30 years. Not everything holds up, but back then it was cool. Boba Fett's back, awesome. And so you got to kind of put yourself into that mindset to read it. And what's cool about this, of course, is it is kickstarting the Legends side of comics. So, Heir to the Empire being the seminal canon novel that kickstarted the EU on that side. With comics, this was the first thing the Dark Horse put out. Shortly followed by Tales of the Jedi and then Rogue Squadron, I think, were the first two after this. But this is the start of Legends comics, unless we count the old school Marvel comics with Jackson, but that's a conversation for another day, isn't it?
Exactly. Like
So-
one. Oh, go ahead, Emma.
I'll let you take it, Caleb, because my question was going to be more of an overarching type thing.
Okay, just real quick, one thing that, as we've already touched on, one thing I love about Star Wars and comics and media and all like that is it's just so different looking, and like you can be immediately attracted to the artwork because the characters, this might sound like a knock, they don't look like the actors. Like they look like chunky, they look gruff and rough and have weird colorations. We haven't seen anything like take such a weird aesthetic choice in the Star Wars universe. The only one who's come close to this has been Lego Star Wars. Let's be honest.
That's a good point. Yeah. Cam Kennedy's art is so divisive. A lot of people hate Dark Empire proportionately to how much I love it. But like, regardless of what your take on it ends up being, it's important among Star Wars comics. And I would say I cannot think of any Star Wars art that I like more than Cam Kennedy's art. I don't want it in every Star Wars comic. Don't get me wrong. But it is so extremely iconic.
So, Jared, I'm wondering, coming from the perspective of someone who, you're gonna hate this, but I've never read any Legends comics.
It's fine. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah, I will. So, coming from my perspective, I'm kind of sitting here wondering, did Dark Empire make our foundational 5 because it's a good place to start if you're getting into Legends comics, or would you have a different recommendation?
It is good for that. It's not necessarily representative of all Legends comics, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's good because you don't have to have read anything else to read this. You watch Return of the Jedi, you go straight into this, and you're like, oh man, the galaxy is not doing so great after that Ewok party. They partied way too hard, and this is good in terms of like you don't have to have read any other Legends comics. However, there are some other really good Legends comics worth picking up. Some that I gotta say I pitched and didn't quite make the list. And are we ready for the honorable mentions then?
I think so.
Yeah, let's go ahead and
is that
talk
what you're doing?
about it.
You teeing it up for me here, Emma?
We are tossing straight
throwing you a
into
softball.
so these were the 5. These were our foundational 5, but nobody can stop at 5. So we wanted to make sure we added 3 additional things, 3 additional titles as sort of our honorable mentions. And Jared, I'll let you take the first one, which is the Republic Twilight, the Quinlan Vos series.
Yeah, so we know Quinlan Vos now in canon from what? He's got a couple episodes of Clone Wars. Importantly, he is the star of the Dark Disciple novel by Christy Golden, co-starring Asajj Ventress. And the reason that he made the jump over into canon is George liked him. He liked him. He liked what they did with him in the Dark Horse comics. So the timeline exactly of when he's introduced and what exactly is going on with this series, none of one of these that's really complicated. I think it was the mainline Star Wars comic from Dark Horse, just called Star Wars. However, then the series was renamed as Republic, but in the middle of the story. So double fact check me in the Utini timeline over there. But the one graphic novel, the one story, if you're looking for 4 issues or 5 issues that we want to recommend as an honorable mention, absolutely one of the best Legends comics, is this this series with who is it? It's not Asajj Ventress this time. I'm so close to having it. The Twilight.
Aayla Secura.
Ayala,
right?
yeah, Aayla Secura.
Yes. So this is Quinlan Vos and Aayla Secura. It's dark and moody. The art is by Jan Duursema, and the art is John the writing is John Ostrander. I guess I can look at the show notes instead of just trying to remember. Here we go. Yeah. So
Make it a challenge.
It's specifically issues 19 through 22 of the Republic series. So if you want to follow along the whole story, you actually have to start in Star Wars and then jump over into Republic. And not every issue of Republic or Star Wars is about Quinlan Vos and Aayla Secura. However, a lot of them are. Sometimes you got a random Bail Organa issue thrown in there, a random Mace Windu issue thrown in. You got a little bit of Ki-Adi-Mundi, but he's a polygamist because Legends. I'm not making this stuff up. It sounds like I am, but I'm honestly not.
I remember seeing those storylines, yeah.
And this is great because it's dark and it's broody and it's like very much early to mid 2000s Legends comics. And I remember picking up some random issues of this in my local grocery store in suburban Oklahoma and
Oh
being like,
wow.
"Ah, thank you, suburban grocery store, for giving me this awesome Star Wars comic." My mom's like, "Son, we got to get some oranges." And I'm like, "I'm going to sit right here and read these, and you shop. I will not move a muscle." And I ended up buying them. I don't have them in my collection anymore. I don't know what happened. They lost in a move, but it's just an absolutely excellent story. They battle with the dark side, middle of the Clone Wars, but it's pre-Clone Wars, right? Before the TV show. So this is not the Jamaican broy Voss. This is angsty Legends Voss.
This
There's
is
a difference, isn't there, Caleb?
this is 2020's Voss.
Amazing. That sounds interesting to me. It's piqued my interest, having not read any Legends comics. I have to say, I'm definitely feeling more interested in this now. And is this the comic that made George Lucas put Ayla Secura into Revenge of the Sith, or am I misremembering here? Because I remember
Yeah, I
he
think so.
saw her from something and decided to put her in the movie because he thought she looked really cool. I love stories like that.
And I will
um,
say that Mike makes a great point in the chat that most of this is collected in the Clone Wars Epic collections. There's what, 3 or 4 of those? I don't know exactly which one has this. I'd have to do some
oh, that's
searching.
good to know.
But that's a good point. If you like to read your Legends comics in Epic collections, it's a great way to do it, either digitally or in print. Those Epic collections, a lot of times digitally, will go on sale for next to nothing. You just gotta kind of be on the lookout. Probably May 4th coming
Ooh,
up would be a good time to check Comixology.
yeah.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, May
So what?
4th usually has some awesome sales, so I'll have to keep my eye out for some of these Legends Epic collections.
So Emma, we got another one here.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about the age of the Republic Rebellion Resistance?
Yes, absolutely. So this is kind of like 3 series into one, but not really. They're kind of the same. It's a little confusing, but I'll explain. So we have the Age of blank comics as our honorable mentions. We have Age of Republic, Age of Rebellion, and Age of Resistance. These were written by Jody Hauser, Greg Pak, and Tom Taylor, each writing their own sort of era, I guess you could say. Um, Art in these were done by Luke Ross, Corey Smith, Chris Sprouse, Mark Lamming, Matteo Buffgani, Leonard Kirk, and Ramon Rosanas. So these are collections of one shots. So it's like a one shot per character. And it features these individual characters during these 3 main trilogies. And so I'll kind of run down for you which characters are focused on in each era. So for the Republic, we have Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, Padme Amidala, Darth Maul, and then villains: Darth Maul, Jango Fett, Count Dooku, and General Grievous. So you kind of have a little bit of a 4 and 4 split, heroes and villains. And then the Rebellion, we have Leia, Han, Lando, Luke, and then the villains we have Tarkin, Boba, Jabba, and Vader. And then the Resistance, we have Finn, Poe, Rose, Rey, Phasma, Hux, Snoke, and Kylo. And so all of these are really great standalone stories. And I think I was like the only one sort of pulling for these in the voting to make it into our foundational 5. And the reason that I like these for beginners is because you don't have to have any prior knowledge
Yeah,
of
that's right.
anything in the books to read these, except just watch the movies, which I mean we all have, right? So that's why I really like these series. Um, I wouldn't say that they're super consequential to the story as a whole. However, I would say that it's cool to see someone like Qui Gon Jinn um, again. And obviously, we have Master and Apprentice before the Phantom Menace, but this is a great way to get more Qui Gon content if you like Qui Gon Jinn. And yeah, overall, they're just some great stories that aren't super consequential yet are very fun to read.
Emma, can
Do
I
you guys
ask
have
you
a
if you?
favorite?
I was gonna ask you the same
Oh,
thing.
you're gonna ask me that? I can answer that. So I think my favorite has to be Roses, and the reason I like it is it ties in really great to the Cobalt Squadron novel, and I don't remember the author's name off the top of my head, but great novel. I think it's a junior novel. I liked seeing Rose with Paige on their home world, kind of seeing them join the rebellion and how Leia would she comforted them. After their planet got taken over and they joined the resistance. I don't know. There was a lot of good things about that comic. I liked seeing some a more, not that we'd never see Leia be compassionate, but I liked seeing the ultra compassionate General Leia as opposed to Princess Leia. And I mean, they were all really good, but if I had to pick a favorite, it'd be Rose. But Jared, do you have a favorite?
Probably the one that made the biggest splash in the fandom was, is it the Snoke issue or the Kylo Ren? I think it's the Snoke one, because the Snoke one is about Kylo Ren.
Right.
Mo-
That's
more
right.
than it's about Snoke. He takes him
Yeah.
to, can I even say it? It's kind of spoilery. It's he takes him to a
Spoiler
very-
warning, 30 seconds. Mute for 30 seconds.
Snoke takes Kylo Ren to train on Dagobah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Kylo Ren freaking blows it up. He explodes Dagobah, or at least the Force Cave. It's so
Yes.
cool. I love. There's some great legend stuff on Dagobah, and so it was really satisfying to see that. Oh, I'm gonna have to reread that maybe tonight. I mean, that one.
That's
is
a
so
great
good.
pick.
That's the cool thing about these. Like 15 minutes, you can read one of these.
Right. Right. Yeah. I love that about this series, which is another reason why I think it's in our honorable mention. It's just so easy to read. If you're new to comics and you want to take it slow, super easy to just sort of pick one up and then put it down. It's not a series. You don't have to remember what happened or whatever. Caleb, do you have a favorite in this series?
If I said anything, it would be a lie. I have not read these series yet.
Ah, that's okay.
Didn't they
That's
cover this
all
on
right.
Conja Book Club?
I think they covered if I'm remembering correctly, they covered the Republic, and I think they're going to cover the Rebellion over the summer. Yeah.
Cool.
It's great. Tyler, do you have a favorite?
Unfortunately, I also have not had a chance to read any of these. I've been getting caught up on all the canon stuff. So
Gotcha.
these are definitely on my list. You've definitely sold me
Good, that's the
previously
goal.
and especially tonight. So I'm definitely going to, because some of these were actually at my local comic store the last time I was in there buying everything for that's current. So I will be sure to pick those up, and hopefully by the next time we meet, I will be able to tell you I've read at least one of them.
Amazing.
So
So
we've got
last up on
one.
our go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I was saying we've got one last honorable mention, and that is Tales of the Jedi, another Legend comic. Caleb, what do you have to say about this one?
Well, it's very neat. It's written by Tom Veitch, who did the Dark Empire, and Kevin J. Anderson. And it doesn't have Cam Kennedy. Instead, it has Christian Gossett, Jan Johnson, David Roach, Tony Atkins, Art Weatherhall, Dario Castillo Jr. They're all the pencilers and artists and did some great work with it. And this was kind of what he did after Dark Empire. It ran from 96 to 98 for about 35 issues. And this is kind of cool because it's the start of the far Legends timeline. Kind of a lot of the Knights of the Old Republic, 5,000 BBY. So, it allowed them to pretty much do the Star Wars thing of what we're going to do? We're going to take all this story and, interesting things we have here, but we're going to ignore all that, just take the technology and the themes and just start our own timeline over here, and we can do whatever we want with it, and there's no restrictions about, well, it's not what happened in the movies. So they could just go crazy, and they did. They had some wild artwork, wild stuff here. It was just some crazy stuff. And if I remember correctly, it doesn't really tie into the games, the Knights of the Old Republic, or the comic series at all.
Well, I actually disagree.
I just remember it's very different.
Because no, it's very different for sure. But who is it? Drew Karpyshyn, who wrote the Darth Bane books. He did the story on that. He really did his homework in Legends, which I appreciated, his EU homework. And there's so much of those comics referenced in KOTOR. And so any kind of dialogue where they're like, hey, what's going on over here on this planet? And they're always like, have you ever heard the story of Exar Kun? Except for it's coming out of the mouths of the Ithorians. So it's heavily based on the lore of these comics. It's not necessary that you read them because they summarize it in the game itself, but the entire foundation, I would say, for all of the Old Republic, the KOTOR story, really goes back here to 1991 with Tales of the Jedi. And man, the storyline, the character development with Ulic Qel-Drama, I think is one of the best in all of Legends, where he starts and where he ends up in the middle, and then they eventually come back years later to like one last like victory lap of Tales of the Jedi. They did Tales of the Jedi Redemption, and it's so good. We actually did. I was looking for it, can't find the link. We did a roundtable on Tales of the Jedi on Legends Look Back, so that would be worth checking out if this is interesting to you.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
we've talked for a very long time on about all of these comics, and as you guys know, all these comics are on utini.com. Emma has done a great job of making sure it's in the links, or excuse me, it's in the chat. Before we finish, any final comment? I want to go around the room and kind of give everybody one final chance to kind of either talk about something that we talked about in one of these books, or maybe throw one additional honorable mention in there. And I will. That usually helps if I pick somebody to start. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Emma. Emma, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, so just an overarching thought. All of these books are great, and if you haven't read any of them, I highly recommend them. I mean, I can't speak for the Legends one. I haven't read the Legends ones yet, but I think if this conversation has taught me anything, is that I should start to read some Legends comics. That would be helpful. And yeah, that's all I got. Really, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Check out the written guide that Jared did. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And
Give us
I'm
those
glad that we
clicks.
have a foundational 5. Yeah, clicks, get the clicks.
Yes, we need those clicks. Jared, what about you?
Man, thanks for having me on the show. This has been great. I've had a fun time trying to get Tyler's video up and running, and my audio was out in somebody's left ear, and then it was not loud enough. But Meg typically runs the live stream for me on Legends Look Back these days. I've had fun. Thanks for having me on the show. This has been fun. I really want to
Been
give
fun.
one last plug to tomorrow night's roundtable on Dark Empire 2. So there was this recent Legends Epic Collection, and this is where it's funny. The Dark Empire Legends Epic Collection is actually named the New Republic Volume 5.
That's not confusing at
It
all.
couldn't just be called Dark Empire. And so we're going to be basically covering that Legends Epic Collection on tomorrow night's roundtable, and I'm very excited for it. We are going to play some clips from the Dark Empire 2 audio drama, which I'm betting most of you didn't know existed. So if you want a taste of that, we've got it tomorrow night. And of course, once you have gone and read all the Foundational 5, you can catch up on what we've got going on over there for your Legends Comics content.
Caleb, you look like you're deep in research mode over there.
Yeah.
What do you got going on over there?
On a few physical ones I had, and this is a freebie. This is our another recommendation. Should have been on the Foundational 5. Lando
I know where you're
2015.
going.
I knew you were
Lando
gonna say that.
2015 is written by Charles Soule. It's just a wonderful little heist in a novel. It's just a quick 6 session. Got some fun stuff with Lando. He just does Lando-y things about lying to you, to the reader all the time. Amazing stuff. I think Lando is a great way. If you love the character, or if you like seeing different genres in Star Wars of a kind of the heist movie, this is a great place to start. So that's my last little plug there. Is Lando should also be read when you get a chance.
Lando has really grown on me. I remember I don't have that trade paperback, but I have those individual issues, and I remember reading that. But he's also featured pretty heavily in the main line right now, and I really like the way that he's portrayed. Plus, I just read The Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view, so I've been getting a lot of Lando in recently, and I have to say I'm starting to appreciate him a lot more than I used to.
That's a good
All
one,
right.
for
So
sure.
I'm not going to add any more. We've now up 10 different
Foundational
books.
30.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to encourage you, just like Mike said in the chat, I'm going to encourage you to pick up the 2016 Afra and trade paperback, because that is going to be our roundtable next week.
There you go.
Our very first roundtable will be on Dr. Afra #1. So go ahead and I encourage you to pick that up. That way you can follow along in the chat. Maybe your favorite art of the week is something that you might be able to submit from there. There's a lot of great art in there. But yeah, so that's my last thoughts, is pick that up. Grab the link over at utini.com and help us being able to provide this amazing content. So that'll do it for the second episode of the Cosmic Force. I want to thank Jared for filling in for Jacob tonight, and really having just a great conversation about comics, Legends comics, canon comics, all of that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. When we get there, we're still working on getting our podcast into feed or into the feeds, and we will make sure that we let you know when we're there. But for now, you can catch us every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the utini.com or Utini YouTube channel, and also make sure you turn on notifications so that way when we go live or when Jared goes live on Legends Look Back tomorrow, you get a little notification. You can join in on the fun of that, and especially the Living Force on Monday nights. If you like what you hear, be sure to visit utini.com for all the reviews, articles, and news for the entire expanded universe. We also encourage you to join our Utini Discord community by going to utini.com/discord. If you'd like to help support the show, you can find us on patreon.com/utini and start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. We want to send out a special thank you to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sanders on our Jedi High Council Patreon level. And then Kyle Hickman, Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson, who make up our Alliance High Command Patreon level. Thank you all for your continued and amazing support. You can tweet the show at Cosmic Force Show, or each of the hosts individually. I'm at Ty Rags. Emma is at Irma J 26. Caleb is at Caleb Lamanik. And I don't have it here in the show notes, but I believe Jared, you were at Jared Q Mays. Did I get that right?
Man. That's right.
Yes. I was doing a little bit of homework. Thanks again to Emma, Caleb, and Jacob or Jared for filling in tonight for Jacob. Special thanks to all of you guys for joining us tonight. And we'll see you next week. And as always, may the Force be with you.